Welcome to the enfotrace video installation guide. We're going to guide you through the easy process of installing the enfotrace GPS system. First, I'm going to give you a basic overview of the components you'll have. We have the GPS unit, we have the I/O connector or in-out cable, we have the relay and socket, the OBD2 harness connector, and the power cable. Now it's time to find a suitable location for our GPS unit. Every vehicle is different, but in this vehicle, we're going to mount it right here on top of the instrument cluster. It's high up in the dash and it has a great target for the satellite to find. Depending upon your vehicle, you may want to mount it somewhere on this side of the dash, high up in the dash, or maybe towards the center. As long as it's high up and the satellite can find it easy, you should be good. But remember, it's important to mount the GPS unit facing up, with this side up, not the sticker side. The sticker side faces down. Now it's time to run our wiring. In order to wire this vehicle, we're going to have to remove this bezel and pull the instrument cluster back so that we have access to a good place to route the wires through. We're going to run our wires down through this side to make sure to put them in a location where they won't be pinched by the tilt of the steering wheel when it's tilted up or down. So now we're going to run our power cable. First, we're going to make sure that we get the power cable behind the cluster because it's actually going to come through the back side and up and over because we're mounting our unit on top of the cluster once it's reinstalled. But I'm going to put this fuse panel in the recess behind the cluster, and I'm going to route the power cable down through the dash and out the bottom. If your vehicle is a 1996 or newer, it should have an OBD2 connector. The OBD2 connector will be located underneath the driver's side of the dash or near the center console, depending upon your vehicle. In this vehicle, it's located right underneath this side of the dash. Now, if your vehicle does have an OBD2 connector, you'll want to use the OBD2 pass-through cable, or you'll want to tap into pin 16 for positive voltage and pin 5 for ground. If your vehicle does not have an OBD2 connector, you'll need to find an alternative source for an unswitched, always-on positive and a good ground. To install the OBD2 pass-through cable, we'll unfasten the OBD2 connector from its factory mounting point, plug in the pass-through cable, and you'll use the supplied factory mounting bracket to mount this part back to its factory mounting position. But first, we'll connect the power cable. If you prefer not to use the pass-through cable, you can still tap in to pin 5 for ground and pin 16 for power. If you're going to tap the OBD2 power connector for pin 16 and pin 5, you'll want to first make sure that the voltages are correct. We're going to take a voltage reading from our battery. We're going to clip on to the negative battery cable, and with the positive lead from our tester, we'll hit the positive. You should have a reading somewhere between 12 and 14 volts. Now we need to verify that the voltage is exactly the same between pin 5 and pin 16. Remember that pin 5 is ground and 16 is positive. So we'll take our lead and hit pin 5 for negative and pin 16 for positive. We've got 12.66, the same as what we took from the battery. If you plan to find an alternate source for your power and ground, you'll have to perform the same test we just did. Make sure that you have the exact same voltage between your positive and negative source as the battery. Now it's time to install the starter kill or starter interrupt relay if you've opted to do so. We'll get started by first testing the relay. We've got our starter kill relay's harness connected to our multimeter. Our multimeter is set to the ohms setting to measure resistance. Right now it has 0 ohms or no resistance. The way I have it hooked up, the red wire is connected to the red lead of my multimeter, the blue wire connected to the black lead of my multimeter. I've got the white wire connected to a red jumper wire, which is then connected to the positive terminal of the battery. I've got the black wire connected to a black jumper wire, which I will then touch to the negative terminal of the battery to test the relay. The black wire is the signal wire.